My fiance, male 33, and I, female 28, are getting married in a few months. His mom is the intrusive type, but she's nice overall, and we somewhat get along. I hate to admit that wedding planning has been an absolute nightmare. His mom wasn't willing to agree on most things, and my fiance said that since he's her only son, I should respect and appreciate vision she has for the wedding and how it should be. She insisted on coming along for wedding dress shopping. I took her with me and my mom and friends. I was so lucky to have found what I was looking for, but she picked a dress she liked so much and said she always pictured her son's bride in it. Mom and friends thought this line was creepy. I thought the dress was somewhat scary and totally not my type. I apologized and thanked her for her vision, but told her that I'd already decided on a dress that I had envisioned myself wearing at my wedding. She got all cranky because of it, apparently, and then must have told my fiance because he came home in the evening ranting about how I upset his mom and turned down her help in choosing the wedding dress and excluded her from the process. I asked, "What process? Duh, it's just a wedding dress. My wedding dress. So I really don't get how she should get a say at all." He got upset and said this attitude of mine wasn't working for him or his mom. He said that I should consider the dress his mom wanted me to buy, especially knowing that both dresses weren't that much different anyway, like she said. But I told him yes, they were different, like so much different. Anyways, we argued about it, then we dropped it. Yesterday I came home and found out that he had returned my wedding dress and replaced it with the one his mom wanted. I called him, and he was straightforward about what he did and why he did it. I lost it and started screaming at him. He asked me to calm down and really give this dress a chance. I refused to even listen. I screamed at him without giving him a chance to speak. He got home and we argued. I then went to stay with one of my friends, and he kept calling and calling, then texting, saying that I overreacted, and it was his wedding too, so it wasn't cool how I screamed at him. He insisted I give this dress a chance. He went on and on about how his mom has a vision and good intentions and wants what's best for me as her future daughter-in-law. Mom is livid and has been wanting to go scream at him and his mom, but my dad said that this isn't worth ruining my relationship with my in-laws for. He suggested I wise up and go with the flow. But is it too much for me to be able to pick my own wedding dress without being guilted about it just to keep the peace? Am I the idiot for my reaction? Molly, you in danger, girl. It's heartbreaking when someone loves a person, but this person obviously has other priorities. I don't see him coming to see the problem here. He went behind your back and overrode a decision that was yours. He does not respect you. This man is 33 and lets his mother decide which dress his future wife will wear at her own wedding, then goes behind your back and returns your dress and replaces it with one his mommy likes better. His mom's obsession with her vision is very creepy, like she's imagined her own wedding to him. No. Cut your losses before you have more invested. Hun, this is your future. You don't want her in the room while birthing your first child? Tough. Husband wants her. She doesn't like your choice of baby name? Tough. His mommy will be naming the child. You don't want to go to his mom's house every Christmas? Tough. Your husband wants to, and we don't want to upset mother-in-law. You want to move houses? Tough. It's not close enough to your mother-in-law. How will she manage without her son? He decides your cooking isn't good enough. Mommy's moving in to take care of her precious boy. Not the idiot, but do not marry this man. This is just a taster of what your life will be like. Run and don't look back. There's a saying, it's easier to dump a mama's boy than divorce a mama's boy. And you've already found out the hard way that he's a spineless coward who will never let you be an independent person from his mother. Give the ring back and peace out. Oh, and tell your dad if he's not going to defend his daughter from mistreatment and disrespect, he's the idiot too. I, 20 female, am a junior in college and started back around a month ago. My father, 50s, called me yesterday, just after one of my classes ended, and asked how I was doing. I responded that I was fine and that my literature class had just finished and I was headed to meet some friends. He asked me if I was making time to study and brought up a few things I'd mentioned the other day, an upcoming paper, a couple of quizzes, just normal stuff. And I told him I had everything under control. That's when he said, "You better. I want to hear that you made A's on all your tests." He said this all my life, and it's been especially bothersome and grating to hear that in the last couple of years. I laughed and said that this isn't high school and I don't get report cards anymore. And he replied that of course I don't, but I'll be telling him whenever he calls to check in. It was getting on my nerves, and it didn't help that I was hungry, and I ended up snapping that it's not any of his business and he should lay off me about it. He yelled at me, called me rude and disrespectful, and told me to check my attitude before getting me into trouble. I told him he didn't need to get upset and that I was just making a pretty obvious statement, considering he doesn't pay my tuition bill. He got angry and yelled some more, and then he told me he'd call me back after I got off my period and hung up. He just tried to call me again about an hour ago, and I ignored it. But now I'm wondering if I was the idiot for telling him my grades aren't his business. I haven't lived with him for 3 years as of this past August, so he has essentially not paid for any of my bills since. I count him paying for the house's water plus electric as paying my bills, obviously, and I've been living in an apartment for the past year. When his side of the family threw me a surprise graduation party, he was the only person who didn't get me a graduation gift or any college money. If he isn't part of financing my education, then my classes, grades, path, etc. isn't really his concern. But am I in the wrong here? Just text him, "Can't talk now, on my period," anytime he tries to contact you in the future. You are not the idiot. Your dad is a cheap, misogynistic control freak. Tell him to keep his misogynistic comments to himself, and that you're not accepting any more calls that pointlessly stress you out. Also tell him that unless he pays your tuition, he has no right to know what grades you're getting, so stop asking. There's a difference between being a concerned parent and what he's doing. He seems to be trying to exert some level of control on you that isn't there anymore, and not dealing with the fact that you are becoming an adult and are handling your own business now. Also, assuming you attend college in the US, your parents have no rights to your academic records, so you are serving as the conduit for what information you want to pass along to them. Therefore, you are well within your rights to speak in generalities about your education, and he can go pound sand. Maybe do yourself a favor and pretend your period lasts forever and go no contact with him. Nothing's more annoying than being treated like a child and others trying to control you. It'll be a lot less stressful not to have to deal with being nagged with aggression. Sorry you've had to deal with that kind of behavior. Long story short, when I was 22, I married a 36-year-old mama's boy. Yep, money, power imbalance, the full meal deal. His mother ran our lives, and when our son was born, it got worse. She spoiled him, and I was just a wet nurse. She was his mom. I had grown up in foster care and just wanted a family and put up with way too much. I finally had the courage to divorce my ex when I was 29, but unfortunately, it didn't help me much with my son. He liked the life his grandmother could provide. She had everything at her house a kid could want, including no rules. When my son was a teenager, my ex passed away. I finally thought I could get him away from her, but she had sunk her claws into him. He told me that he wanted to live with her and would run away if I didn't let him. I know what happens to runaways, so he went. When he was 19 last year, his grandmother passed away from complications of the global issue. She had other kids and grandkids, and his inheritance wasn't as much as you would think. I had gotten the life insurance payout when my ex passed away, so he blew through his money relatively quickly. Then he came to my home. He needed a place to stay, and I was his mom, so of course he was welcome. Until he started to try to live by her rules in my house. He would not clean up after himself or help around the house. Instead, he would stay up playing video games and sleep until the afternoon. I told him that wouldn't work for me and that he needed to shape up. So he started complaining to his dad's family about how terrible I was, and they got all over me, saying how he was raised a certain way and I had to be reasonable. So I gave him a chance to change. It didn't work. He kept complaining, and his one aunt just would not let up. So I waited until he was out one day. I packed his stuff up, and when he came home, I drove him to her house and dropped him off. Now the entire family's calling me an idiot for abandoning him. I would absolutely take him in and help him if he could behave, but he won't. So he's staying there and driving them as crazy as he was making me. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. When you're an adult living in your parents' home rent-free, you must remember that they're not obligated to house you and behave accordingly. He's not willing to be an adult about it, so it's perfectly reasonable to remove the privilege of living with you. I'll admit, I do feel sorry for him a bit. It sounds like he didn't really have a chance at growing into a healthy, happy adult and may never get there. At a minimum, it will take some serious rude awakenings for him to figure out how to be a functional adult. He abandoned you by choosing to live the easy life with his grandma. You did nothing wrong, and you acted like the mother he needed to teach him to be a basic human being who could eventually take care of himself. He is an adult and should no longer be coddled. Forget the people who gave you the flack for putting up with the monster your mother-in-law created by giving him everything a child could ever want. In my opinion, you did the best thing in the situation. You tried, but it didn't work. You got him to the people looking out for his interest, and now they can see what it's like. There's a big, fat, freaking chance they'll also kick him out. When they do, and he does come back to you, make sure you keep the same rules in place, or else he'll start walking all over you. My wife and daughter, Natalie, 20 female, get along all right now. However, from about the time Natalie was mid-teen until she was 18, they didn't. Some of it was teen angst, but most of it was my wife being too hard on Natalie and placing her dreams on her. In these arguments, I often took Natalie's side and told my wife why, standing up for Natalie every time. Eventually, my wife and Natalie sought out therapy. My wife realized she had a lot of stuff from her childhood that she was transferring onto our daughter. She's apologized and tried to do better since, but things are, of course, fragile. Natalie attends college and lives in the dorms. However, as she's only 2 hours away, she does come home occasionally and did so this past weekend. She's currently looking for a job around where she attends college, but has had some trouble finding one that'll fit her schedule. She has classes at odd hours, so she can only work weekends, and many places in the area want more commitment. As it also happens, my wife has her own business, and right now, because of the economy, business is slow. Natalie made herself lunch on Sunday and left a mess in her wake. My wife asked her to clean it up. Natalie did so, but rushed through it by her own admission, leaving a bit of a mess. My wife got irritated and asked her to finish. As Natalie was heading into the kitchen, my wife muttered, "I can see why you can't find a job." Natalie asked what she had just said, and my wife repeated herself. Natalie was clearly hurt and replied, "I wouldn't talk about my lack of a job. Aren't you hurting for clients right now?" My wife flipped. She told Natalie she couldn't speak to her that way. How dare she talk about her career? She then started saying if Natalie has so many smart comments about her business, she can be cut off financially. We pay for her schooling, including dorm fees, textbooks, and stock her mini fridge. That's when I stepped in and asked my wife to come with me to our room. I said that she could be upset by Natalie's comment, but we're not cutting her off financially. 1, that's not a choice she can make on her own. 2, I don't feel the comment warrants it. Was it overstepping? Maybe. But at the same time, she did make a comment about Natalie's lack of a job when it had nothing to do with what she was upset about. My wife says I should stand by her and back her up. She pointed out that Natalie has asked us for money to load her mini fridge. We typically do this once a month, and she wasn't going to give it to her now. I said I would. My wife refused to say goodbye to Natalie when she left. Once she did, we got into a huge argument where my wife told me that I was supposed to take her side. Am I the idiot? Why is your grown, business-operating, supposedly mature wife antagonizing her daughter? Is she purposely running for the Most Jealous Mom of the Year award? Not the idiot. You're due for a serious chat with your wife. Your wife made a rude comment and is angry that your daughter matched her energy. The more significant issue here is that your wife's responses are disproportionate and has the potential to damage her relationship with her daughter permanently. Hopefully, she continues with therapy and works through it. Therapy didn't work. She just learned better techniques for hiding her manipulation and projection. Mom is an unrepentant mean girl who can't even get over herself long enough to see that she's hurting someone she supposedly loves. Her disproportionate response speaks volumes. She can dish it, but can't take it, and plays the victim. No wonder her clients don't come back. All right, my dad left me, 24 male, everything after he passed away earlier this year. In the last few months of his life, we recorded all of his valuables and who they should go to. I got everything except for a few things he wanted his brother to have. He made me swear that my mother and sister would receive nothing from him. My mother, 52, cheated on my dad when I was 14, and my sister was 16. So I decided to stay with my dad, and my sister, 26, chose to live with my mom. They stayed no contact with us until last week. My dad left me 3 properties when he passed. Each property is a farmhouse with 150 acres of land, and each has a barn. I've been renovating the properties so I can rent them out or sell them to new farmers. I posted a picture of one of the completed properties on social media, and I guess my sister saw it. I'm still mad at her because she never visited our dad while he was in the hospital. Honestly, to me, my mother and sister aren't family anymore after the amount of disrespect they showed my dad and me. Well, she called me earlier this week and told me about her husband and kids. We talked about nonsense until she asked when she was getting her inheritance. I asked what she wanted from dad's, and she said one of the properties and $100K. I told her that dad specifically told me not to give her or mom anything, so she was out of luck. She screamed at me for 15 minutes, but eventually hung up. My dad left me a lot of money, and I could honestly give her the money she wanted without any financial burden on my part, but I know it won't go to her kids' college fund or anything useful. She'll blow it on a new car and a bunch of clothes. I already put money aside for her kids' college that she doesn't know about. My mom called me yesterday and told me that it was my sister's right to the money and property as his daughter. She told me that I didn't need everything that my dad had left and to share it. I told her that if she was worried about it, she should give my sister 100 grand because she cares more than I do. Mom called me a disrespectful little idiot and hung up. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. They stayed no contact with us. Full stop. You have no relationship with these people. They just want to use what you have. You didn't leave them anything in his correctly and legally prepared will. You have no reason to disrespect your father's wishes. An inheritance is a gift passed from one to another upon death. Why would you give part of a gift to someone else? Father would have done it himself in his will if he saw fit to do that. It's always amusing how people crawl out of the woodwork when they smell inheritance and think that they're entitled to some. Your sister can't choose to remain no contact and then try to profit off her father, who she clearly didn't care about. Now she can crawl back into the woodwork empty-handed. And screw what your mom says about the situation. She has no leg to stand on regarding what your dad should have done for your sister. Also, it's nice that you put up the trust funds for her kids' college. Once they're old enough, maybe let them know. She'll almost certainly say crap about you behind your back to them, and the kids are most likely to believe their parents than the no-contact relatives. I, female teen, just got grounded over the summer for screaming at my aunt and mother. I just read the Am I the Idiot about the lady who abandoned her mom in Colombia, and I worship her. So this last summer, we had my aunt come to visit from a Latin American country. She has enough money to stay at a hotel, but my mother insists that I give up my room for her. No problem. I have the second biggest room, and it has a private bathroom. I'm grown enough to understand that my mom wants to visit with her sister, so I go sleep in the basement. It has a very comfy couch, and my dad has his gaming setup down there, and he lets me use it. The problem comes one day in. I needed to grab some stuff from my room. My mom was out with my aunt, so I just went in to get it. Literally, all my stuff was off of my walls. My posters, pictures, and little mementos from the cons I've been to. All gone. Bare walls. What the heck? So I started looking for where all my stuff was, and I couldn't find it in the room. I finally found it in a garbage bag in the garage. A lot of it was ripped to shreds. She didn't take out the tacks or anything. She just tore it off the walls and destroyed it. I also found some concert tees, also destroyed. I am still devastated. Some of these bands I will never see again, and everything was purchased with my own money. I waited for them to get home and freaked out. My mother had to be a part of it because the garbage bag was one of ours, and it was in the garage where we left our garbage awaiting garbage day. My aunt said that a woman shouldn't have things like that, and that I was going to the bad place for my choices. There was nothing bad on my walls. A priest might object to some images, but he would not throw holy water on them or anything. My mom grounded me for yelling at her and her sister. I waited for my father to come home and told him everything that had happened. He went and looked in my room and asked my mom questions. I was still grounded because that's how they parent. They don't go against each other's discipline. However, he did, right in front of my mom and aunt, transfer a large sum of money from the family vacation fund that we would use to go down and visit my mom's family and bring gifts into my personal account to replace my stuff. Only my dad is on my account. He told my mom we aren't going next year because now we can't afford it. And when she started to cry, he told her he would tell everyone it was her and her sister's fault for what they did. My mom says I overreacted and I'm an idiot. Am I an idiot? Oh, you overreacted? But them trashing an entire room based on a difference of opinion? That wasn't an overreaction? Yeah, okay. Not the idiot. You have a great dad. And I second the suggestion to flip them expensive eBay listings so they know how badly they messed up in numbers. Your aunt is a guest and should not be destroying other people's property. Technically, she should be the one reimbursing your family. What your mom and aunt did was disrespectful to you, heartless and cruel. I don't know why your mom will let your aunt get away with such atrocious behavior. Your aunt is an idiot for having no manners, and your mom is an idiot for letting her do all of this. But also, whoa, treasure dad you have right there. His way of solving the issue was fair and regulated. Kind of hard to find a dad who's not just a pushover caricature afraid of conflict these days. Mom wanted it gone all along, but didn't dare risk it because she knew dad would go wild. So when auntie had an issue with it, mom decided it was her moment and helped get rid of it all. Maybe they even planned it, and it was the main reason they wanted to use her room. I could be overthinking, but that's what my mind is telling me. I, 28 female, have never had a good relationship with my mother. She and my dad married young and had 4 kids, 2 sisters, 27 and 24, my brother, 20, and me. My parents' marriage was highly toxic, and they divorced when I was 17 because my mother had an affair with her now second husband. Mother and hubby number 2 have 1 child together, tween female. Since we were kids, my siblings and I have been subjected to my mother's mantra of "I gave you life, so you should be grateful." From the time we were young, my mother would use the above phrase to gain anything from our sweets and our birthday money to taking a percentage of pay slips when we joined sixth form, ages 16 to 18, education in the UK. My siblings and I have been fortunate enough that our paternal grandparents are well off. They paid for our university fees, minus my brother, who chose not to attend university. However, our grandparents are declining in health and have decided to give us grandchildren our inheritance early so they can watch us enjoy it and not have the stress put on my dad to sort out our portions when the time comes. My brother decided to buy a car with his and save the rest for traveling. My 2 sisters are spending it on their growing families. I decided to use my portion on a mortgage deposit, and I'm weeks away from buying my first home. My mother is enraged at our choices. When she found out that her ex-in-laws had given us all money, she yelled at how it was unfair that our younger half-sister missed out. She has a rule that she gets a percentage of our inheritance because I gave them life and they need to learn to be grateful, and then extended it by saying how we never appreciated her sacrifices, how we butchered her body, drained her mental state, and caused her to divorce because our dad was too focused on us rather than paying attention to her, which caused her to cheat. I snapped at my mother and told her to just shut up. I told her that we didn't ask her to bring us into this world because she chose to have kids, and if I had the chance to change who my biological mother was, I would, because she's always been a crappy one. Now she's telling the family that I don't appreciate her struggles with parenting, and I've upset her so badly that she's unable to focus on areas of her life that need her. For example, My half-sister, her job is a nurse, etc. My siblings sided with me, but our half-sister has sent me texts saying that I need to apologize for being mean. Also, my stepdad, not the word I want to use, has called me an idiot for speaking to my mother harshly. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your mom is toxic, and she'll likely royally mess up her youngest daughter by making her believe she's a victim of your grandparents' generosity. Your mom's affair partner needs to sit down and shut up. Your half-sister is not related to your grandparents. She deserves nothing. Your mother is way off base here. Your mom cheated on their son, so your paternal grandparents are probably not her biggest fan. Honestly, your mom can go pound sand. You're correct. She gave life to you, that's correct. But that doesn't mean that you're her slaves. On the contrary, she failed you as a parent, didn't provide for you, and didn't show you any love or support. She's a vampire. Get some garlic and keep her away from your life. OP's mom needs to keep her mouth shut. She decided to give birth. She decided to cheat. Nobody owes their parents for giving them life. We're usually grateful for what they do for us during our lives, and she obviously has not done much. You owe her nothing, OP. She's a narcissist. Everything's always about her and only her. Normal person logic is just irrelevant here. My parents go on vacation without me, teen female, and my sister, 1 year older, every summer, and send us to a sleepaway camp. The problem is we go to different camps, and my sister's camp sounds freaking awesome, and my camp is pretty mid. My sister has this immune system thing, and she goes to a 2-week camp for free for people with the same condition as her. She's taken pictures, and the cabins are less crowded. The bathrooms are nicer. They have 3 pools, archery, horseback riding, canoeing, hiking, casino nights, astronomy nights. People bring telescopes, and they stay up late looking at stars and planets. Game nights, and they have actual chefs that cook their food. My parents send me to church camp because it's cheap. It's usually during one of the weeks my sister's at camp, and they know the directors and priests and volunteers. But unfortunately, we're out in the middle of nowhere, literally surrounded by farms, with a pool and a tiny playground. That's only fun when you're 7 or 8. They also don't allow technology for campers, unless it's school related. My parents could send an email saying I need my tablet for school, but they say it's good to be away from technology for the week. We do have some fun activities and competitions, but there's also a lot of free time where there isn't that much to do except hang out with the other girls. You can't even flirt with any of the guys because there's an 85% chance that you're somehow related. Last summer, my parents were signing us up for camp, and I said that either they find a camp like my sister's or I'm not going to camp. My parents found one, but it was more than triple the price of church camp. So they said either church camp or I can spend the week with my grandma. So I went to church camp because grandma's house is even more boring than church camp. All she wants to do is watch Family Feud, The Price is Right, or the news, cook, and talked about when she lived in Palestine. They're already talking about next summer, and I was complaining about having a crappy week every summer because they want to go on vacation. And they told me to shut up because they gave me options. And if I find something for under $400, I can do it. Otherwise, I'm either going to church camp or grandma's house. They're calling me ungrateful and a brat. So I wanted to know if I was the idiot. What is unfair exactly? That your sister has a disorder and you're healthy? That your parents are spending a lot more money on your sister's camp? Life isn't fair, unfortunately. You are lucky in some things. Your sister is lucky in some things. Your sister will probably have this disorder for the rest of her life. Maybe 2 weeks of horseback riding for a few years isn't worth it. Your camp is probably worth exactly what they're paying for it, but your sister pays with her health. That's true unfairness. I'm sorry, you are the idiot. You complained and got offered an alternative, but still chose camp. So it can't be all bad. You're still complaining. So you got an option to find a camp you like within the budget. So find a better option than complaining about unfairness and comparing yourself to your sister. I have to say, I do feel sorry for the OP, a kid who's dumped in some camp for 2 weeks where they aren't enjoying themselves and have outgrown the activities provided. The parents should do more to find a better option. Every summer, the parents have a nice time, the sister has a nice time, and the OP is miserable. Agree. Not the idiot OP. If we were to leave our children to take a vacation without them, our priority would be to ensure that they have a great time. If a more enjoyable camp is not affordable, how about going to friends and having them over for a week? I don't understand parents who care about not being inconvenienced in the least, rather than what makes their kids happy. I have a sister that's 6 years older than me. My parents for years canceled on me at the last minute because of my sister. I have a basketball game. Oops, sorry, sister doesn't feel like going out. I'm graduating. Oops, sorry, sister had a bad day at work. They have missed major and smaller events in my life because of her meltdowns. I met the love of my life, and we decided to tie the knot. From the beginning, I told my parents how I was worried my sister would ruin another special moment in my life. My mom told me over and over again that it would not happen. The day of my wedding, I received a voicemail from my mom saying that they couldn't come because my sister's dog was sick and she was upset. I was hurt. My best man, however, is a jokester. He took my phone and then went to my fiance and asked if he could post a video of our wedding as a gift on social media. She loved his idea. I had no idea about it until I came home. Our honeymoon was at a lakeside cabin, no cell service. The post caption was, "My best friend. He's an amazing person, even if his parents never showed up for him." The video was still pictures of us next to her parents, me on the dance floor cutting the cake, all the places you would normally see both sets of parents in wedding pictures. The sound behind the video was my mom's voicemail, explaining how they couldn't come because my sister's dog was sick. I came home a week later to hundreds of messages, family members from both sides, insisting I take it down. I was told my sister hadn't stopped crying. My mom is refusing to leave the house. I may be the idiot here, but I didn't take it down when I got my messages. I didn't call my family back right away. I waited until my vacation time was over at work and enjoyed my time with my wife in our new home before I contacted anyone. My dad told me to take down the video. It was just a bad night for them, and they'll make it up to me and my wife for not coming. My reply was, exactly how do you plan to make up my wedding? It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. You choose to ignore my feeling on the whole matter. Then he just repeated that he'd make it up to me. I told him that I'd take down the video only when he made up missing my wedding. Flustered, we both hung up the phone before saying things we shouldn't have. Am I the idiot here? I could have just taken down the video. Not the idiot. The truth hurts sometimes, and your parents and sister just got whammied. Your friend is awesome. Please leave that video up. Your friend didn't manipulate their words. Your parents would have nothing to cry about if they hadn't done anything wrong. They skipped your wedding with one seriously pathetic excuse. Let them feel the effects of that. They were finally called out on their blatant favoritism, and they obviously didn't take it well. I'd hold off inviting them anywhere or to anything, OP, at least for a while. Please don't make them your first priority when you aren't theirs. Instead, focus on your new wife and your absolutely awesome best friend. They both sound like keepers. My parents missing my wedding because my sister's dog was sick and she was sad would probably be no contact worthy for me, especially if my sister was 6 years older than me. If she was a toddler and the family pet was dying, it may be understandable, but a grown woman needing both of her parents to console her because her dog wasn't well? Jesus. Some parents genuinely love having a problem child. I'm not even kidding. I work with parents who enjoyed the drama and manipulatively encourage the child's selfish behavior. It's absolutely disgusting. See if your best man can pull up footage of your graduation and maybe pictures from games they missed and produce a greatest hits compilation video to post right next to the wedding video. I, 28 female, had a party to celebrate my husband's 28 birthday 2 weeks ago. My half-sisters, 18 and 19, were invited, as was my mom. During the party, my half-sisters ranted to my mom for being a terrible friend and a person to their mom who died several years ago. Their mom was the affair partner of our father. She was also supposed to be my mom's best friend. My mom hated her and my dad for what they did and refused to have anything to do with them or my half-sisters. She always told me I didn't have to hate them for her, but that I had to understand she would never be their family. My half-sister's mother got sick several years ago. She tried to make up with my mom, but my mom would not go and see her, and apparently she died torn up about it. Many of her family believe she died faster because she wanted to see my mom again. They had grown up together and had known each other from the age of 2, and they believe she truly regretted hurting my mom. A lot of anger was aimed at my mom for this. I always told my half-sisters not to drag me into that mess and that I would not stand for them insulting her around me. They were good about that until the party. I also found out that they planned to gang up on her and make a public scene because they said they'd been waiting to say that to her. I was furious. I told them to leave. They asked how I could make them leave over her. I told them I didn't care about their mother and that their mother was not more important to me than my own. I told them that they were no longer welcome. They argued back, but were escorted out. They've tried to call me several times since. I have not answered. They've sent texts saying that I'm the idiot, and how could I abandon them like this and treat them so terribly? Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. They deliberately caused the situation with the mistaken belief that your mom should have continued being besties with her husband's affair partner. That's not even a little bit okay. I'm unsure how you've abandoned them because you don't need to listen to their BS. You seem quite reasonable to me. Not just the betrayal of her husband, but the betrayal of her best friend since the age of 2? Somehow that's worse. OP, your mother was ripped apart by the 2 people she trusted most. The girls aren't at fault for that, but they are idiots for bullying your mom. Ranted to my mom for being a terrible friend and person to their mom. Excuse me? Projection much? Who cares that your dad's affair partner tried to make up before she died with the childhood friend she betrayed? Your mom was under no obligation to relieve her ex-friend's burden of justifiable guilt, and your half-sisters and their family can stuff it. All of them can live or die with the consequences of their actions, including their rotten behavior at your party.